Ayan. So today we're going to be talking about the structural systems. What are structural systems ba? Anyone who has an idea? Let's try to ask Mr. Kendangan. Kendangan, are you here? Kendangan, wala. Absent. Richard. Oh, andito si Richard. Richard, oh, yung mga nandito na hindi sumasagot ha, i-kick out ko na lang kayo. Ayan. So let's start with, ayun, nag-left na siya. Ang hindi sasagot dito na nandito lang ha, I will kick you out. Okay. How about Mary Jane Pelagio? Mary Jane, do you have any idea? Kung wala naman, you can just say wala, sir.
Wala, sir.
Okay, how about Figueroa? What are structural systems?
Wala po, sir.
What? Wala? Oh my God, you don't even bother to Google it? Sige, Kalika.
Sir, yung mga structural elements na binibuild, sir. Yung pinag-combine ng mga bakal, ganun, sir. Para makabuo ng isang structure.
Okay. The structural systems are just a group of structural members. Okay. This is just groups of structural members acting together to overcome forces or the loads in a particular structure. So those are structural systems. Now in our syllabus, there are a lot of structural systems listed there, but we're just gonna focus on three particular general types of structural systems. And these three are, according to the Uniform Building Code, are the bearing wall systems, the building frame systems, and the moment resisting frame systems. So we have three major types of structural systems. So ito yun, building bearing wall, the building frame, okay, or the framing system, and then we have the moment resisting frame system. Okay, so let's talk about the bearing wall system. So what are bearing wall systems? Okay. Adun Lexilin Margs, andito ka ba? Wala din. Lexilin, let's see. Okay, mukhang wala siya. Sige. Acido.
Sir.
Would you mind reading the first and the second paragraph?
Okay, sir. Bearing wall system consists of vertical load carrying walls located along exterior wall lines and at interior location as necessary. Many of these bearing walls are also used to resist lateral forces and are then called shear walls. Bearing wall system do not contain complete vertical load carrying space frame, but may use some columns to support floor and roof vertical load.
Okay, so the bearing wall system, this is actually a structures with columns, pero very minimal ang kanilang beams. So for this particular type of system, it could be that we have a 4-story structure. Of course, lahat naman ng structure may column yan, okay? And then the one supporting the loads are the walls, and then being transferred into the column. Those are our bearing walls, okay? Those are load-bearing walls. Ito yung minsan tinatawag natin load-bearing walls. Ngayon, there is this particular wall that we call as the shear wall. Okay, so the shear walls are actually walls that are under the bearing wall as per UBC. Okay, so the Uniform Building Code, 1987 nata yun. So the shear walls are under the bearing wall. Pero in the construction field, these two are taken separately. Okay. So ano ba pagkakaiba ng bearing walls and the shear walls? Okay. So in the bearing walls, gravity loads lang ang sinusuportahan niya. Okay? Sa shear walls naman, lateral loads ang sinusupport. What are lateral loads? O sige, balik tayo kay Adun Lexilin. Nag-CR daw siya. Ano yung ganon? Lateral loads.
Wait lang po, sir.
Wait now. Okay, mag-CR
Ah, lateral load, sir?
Yeah.
Mga wind load, sir?
Windows. Ano pa?
Earthquake loads, sir?
So we have two different major classification or major loads under the lateral loading. So lahat ng lateral loads, these are horizontal loading. So a common example of this is the wind load as per Miss Adun, and then meron din tayong seismic loading. Okay? The horizontal loads. So yun ang key word doon. Lateral loads are horizontal loading or horizontal forces. Okay? So, tandaan natin na may pagkakaiba ang bearing wall and the shear wall. Okay? Pero under the UBC, yung shear wall is under, but according to the UBC rather, the shear wall is under the bearing wall. Okay? So, bearing wall systems do not contain complete vertical load carrying space frames, but may use some columns to support floor and roof vertical loads. I will show you later on kung ano yung ibig sabihin nito. So this type of bearing system is very common and includes wood frame buildings, concrete tilt-up buildings, and masonry wall buildings. Okay. Ano ba itong masonry na to? Almondia. What's this masonry? What do we mean when we say masonry? Masonry is anything made of almondia.
Sir?
What is masonry?
Sir, yung mga ano po, yung mga craft of building and fabricating stone po. Clay, bricks, and concrete block po.
Okay, sige. When we say masonry, guys, anything that is made up of bricks and connected by ang tawag dito, a mortar, 'di ba? The paste parang yung mortar, 'di ba? Yun yung ginagamit sa pagdikit ng brick to brick. Tama ba? It's called mortar.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ayun. So those are what we call the masonry masonry elements. Okay, so masonry, anything that's made up of bricks and connected by, binded by mortar. Okay, so yun yung inyong first system, the bearing wall system. Next, we have building frame systems naman. So, please read, andito na ba si Apostol MJ Sharaf?
Sir,
Please read yung first and second paragraph.
building frame systems use a complete three-dimensional space frame to support vertical loads, but use either shear walls or braced frames to resist lateral forces. Examples of these include buildings with steel frames or concrete frames along the perimeter and at intervals throughout the interior supporting vertical loads from floors and roof.
Okay. So in the building frame naman, the only difference between the building frame or the differences between the building frame and the uh, bearing wall system is that itong ating building frame system is comprised of beams and columns with the incorporation of a shear wall or a shear wall rather, a shear wall. So anything that is made up of column, beams, and a shear wall, okay, those are your building frame systems. Sir, bakit hindi kasama ang bearing wall? Bakit hindi kasama ang bearing wall, sir, in the building frame system? Well, technically, pwede naman silang pagsamahin, pero it's not called building frame system anymore. It's called dual system. So mamaya papakita ko sa inyo yung differences niya in terms of the figure. Pero as of now, mag-focus muna tayo sa mga blah blah. So again, the building frame system comprises of the columns, the beams, and the shear wall. Okay? So shear wall. Now, baka kasi ma-confuse kayo mamaya sa moment resisting frame at saka sa building frame system. Okay? So, ang building frame system natin, guys, hindi niya kayang i-resist ang lateral loading without the help of a shear wall. Okay? There's always an incorporated shear wall in a building frame system. Okay? Yun yung one of the major differences or kung baga yun yung identity ng building frame system. Okay? So sabi kanina, examples of these are buildings with steel frames or concrete frames along the perimeter and at intervals throughout the interior supporting vertical loads from floors and roofs. So yung beams natin and yung column natin, it will resist the vertical loading, the gravity loads, while the shear wall incorporated into the building frame system will resist the lateral loading. Okay? So yung building frame system natin is typically uses steel braced frames or concrete or masonry shear walls to resist lateral forces. So nandito yung figure para mas maintindihan niyo. We have a figure in here. Ayan. So ito yung building frame system natin with shear wall. Ito siya. Okay. So this is what we call a building frame system. Ang moment resisting frame natin is ito naman siya. Okay. So, tatanong niyo sa akin, sir, ano din pagkakaiba ng building frame system with shear walls sa moment resisting frame system? Okay? So, proceed tayo with the moment resisting frame. Araw, Mark, Adrian. Araw, are you here?
Sir.
Ayan. Would you mind reading the entire slide?
Moment resisting frame systems can be steel, concrete, or masonry construction. They provide a complete space frame throughout the building to carry vertical loads, and they use those same frame elements to resist lateral forces. Shear walls and brace frames are not used in the system, as shown in the figure 1B.
Ayun. So pretty much self-explanatory ang moment resisting frame. So halos pareho lang siya with the building frame system, only that we don't need shear walls anymore in a moment resisting frame. Bakit? Kasi yung mismong columns and yung beams natin, kaya niyang i-withstand ang lateral forces. So typically the problem with the building frame system, okay, the building frame system are the connections in the on the nodes, okay? So hindi ganun kalakas yung connections on the nodes. That's why it is not able to resist lateral forces caused by the wind or the earthquake. Whereas yung moment resisting frame natin, we don't need to incorporate shear wall, okay, shear wall on the system because the beams and the columns alone, okay, is able to withstand the effect of seismic and wind loading. Okay? So, stand-alone yan. Frame lang, kayang-kaya na niyang i-withstand lahat ng forces. Okay? So, normally, yung mga supports natin dyan, yung supports natin dyan at the joints, okay, at the nodes of the frame, is very, kumbaga kan siya, fixed support, mga ganyan, and is able to continuously withstand cyclic deformation. Okay? So, yan yung moment resisting frame natin. So, take note that shear walls are not used in the system, including braced framing. Okay? So, ito naman, andito ba si ganon? Back kay Edward.
Sir,
We've met na, di ba? Nag-meet na tayo.
yes, sir.
Batch 2 ka ba? Batch 2?
Apa, sir.
Okay, sige. I can remember you eh. Okay, sige. Pakibasa to.
Occasionally, buildings are defined as dual systems when they have a complete space frame that supports vertical loads and combined moments resisting frames with either shear walls or brace frames to resist lateral loads.
Okay. So, ito na guys, yung sinasabi natin combi, okay? Or yung combination ng moment resisting frame and ang tawag dito, moment resisting frame at saka ng what do you call that? The wall. Okay, so the wall. So, dual systems ang tawag natin doon. Kasi they both incorporate the bearing wall and the moment resisting frame in one structure. Okay, so meron tayong dual system. Okay? So, yun lang naman yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo. Now, in order for you to know more, okay, we will be moving on to the lateral force resisting elements. Okay? So, itong lateral force resisting elements na to, this will just talk about the types of bracing, mga ganyan sa ating tawag dito, building frame system. Okay, and it will also introduce to you the special moment resisting frame. Okay, so what are these lateral, ano bang ginagawa nitong lateral force resisting elements na to? Okay, so balisi? Hello?
Sir, lateral
Hello?
force resisting elements.
Sige,
Sir.
go.
Say pa, sir. Lateral force resisting elements must be provided in every structure to brace it against wind and seismic forces. The three principal types of resisting elements are shear walls, brace frames, and moment resisting frames. Shear walls can be made of sheeted wood frame walls, reinforced masonry, or reinforced concrete.
Okay, baka ma-confuse kayo. Kanina we talked about the system. Okay, we talked about the system. So parang medyo magkakalapit lang yung mga pangalan nila, no? Kasi in the lateral force resisting elements, we have shear walls, brace frames, and moment resisting frames. Baka sabihin niyo, sir, isn't this similar to the types or the major classification under UBC, which is the bearing wall, and then we have the building frame, and then the moment resisting frame? Hindi po. Okay, this talks about the components of those systems. So the first one, particularly this is for the lateral force resisting only. Okay, for the lateral force resisting only. So the first one is a shear wall. Okay, what's the difference again between the shear wall and the load-bearing wall? Tawagin natin si Baliwag.
Sir?
Hello?
Hello, sir.
It's me. Hello from the other side. Jarvi, what's the difference
Sir,
between a load-bearing na wall and a shear wall?
sir, yung load bearing, nagbubuhat po ng load mismo.
Okay, and how about the shear wall?
Sir, is yung shear wall is po, parang doon sa may resisting po ng lateral forces po.
Eksena, nakalagay nga dito, lateral force resisting, kasama dun yung shear wall. Okay. Sige. Okay na yun, Jarvi. Jonali, are you here?
Sir,
Ano, what do you mean when we say shear? Shear.
sa shear, sir, is yung so sa mga horizontal loads po. And sa load-bearing walls is mga gravity loads.
Sige nga. Okay, sige. Guys, diba, when we say shear, it's actually, these are actually phenomena that these are actually forces that tends to cause tear, okay, a tear on the structure, okay. So later papakita ko yan sa inyo. Meron tayong figure niyan, pero nandito kasi siya sa tablet, okay. Hindi ko na siya in-include dito sa PowerPoint kasi baka malay nyo kasama pala yun sa exam, okay. So, yun yung tinatawag natin shear wall. Kapag load-bearing, guys, do not be confused ha, kasi although kanina sinabi natin, di ba, the bearing wall system is actually, the shear wall is under the umbrella of the bearing wall system. That is according to the UBC. Pero in practice and in actual construction, these two are actually separated. Okay? So pag sinabi natin load bearing, okay, pag sinabi natin load bearing in the construction field, this actually are walls that tend to carry the gravity loads. Okay, while shear walls, ito naman mga horizontal loading. Okay, so that's your shear wall. Okay, so shear walls can be made of sheathed wood frame walls, reinforced masonry, or reinforced concrete. Okay, so of course, yung mga bahay natin before, or yung mga bahay natin, especially if you're not that fortunate, okay, hindi naman tayo mayaman, is made up of wood, and most likely the walls are made up of wood, and these wooden walls are considered as the shear wall of that particular structure, especially kung bahay nyo is like ancestral. Okay, ganon. Okay. So, tanong ko naman, di ba we're using hollow blocks, okay, hollow blocks in construction or for walls, okay. So, are walls load-bearing, shear walls, or ano ba siya? Are they load-bearing? Are they shear walls? What's the purpose of a hollow block? Joshua Benkan.
Load bearing, sir.
Bearing? Are you sure?
Ay, shear pala, sir.
Do you
Nag-resist
agree?
po.
Okay, sige. Sige, shear. Shear daw, sabi ni Benkan. Benitez, do you agree with Benkan?
Sir? Sir, ano pa yung tanong, sir?
Diyos ko naman, Benitez naman. My God. Benitez, my favorite talaga. Anong purpose ng gano'n, ng hollow blocks? Diba? Ginagamit natin siya for wall. Okay? Load-bearing ba siya, shear, or what? Okay? Sabi ni Benkan, it's a shear wall daw. Do you agree?
Hindi, sir.
Hindi. Bakit?
Load bearing siya, sir.
Load bearing siya. Okay, sige. Bueno. Ikaw naman, tanungin natin. Bueno, Adriel. Bueno. Hindi naman si Bueno. Adriel. Ay, mukhang wala. Sige. Wala si Adriel Bueno. Ayan. At Diyos ko, may papasok pa lang. Almondia Pauline. My God. Okay. Kabawatan Mary.
Sir, load bearing po.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
So you mean the hollow blocks are actually carrying the hollow blocks are actually carrying the weight of the building? Okay, sige. How about Kalagi? Kalagi.
Sir.
Do you
No,
agree
sir.
there?
Sir, paulit yung tanong po.
Diyos ko, ano yung paulit-ulit? Every next person, sir, paulit ng tanong. Alam mo to, si Kalagi, when you look at him, pag tinignan mo siya online, nag-online, he's so reserved, mga ganyan. He's so reserved and like sobrang tahimik in online. Pero pag nakasama mo siya in person, apakaingay pala nila Aaron. Ayun. Okay. So, I will repeat the question. Kanina kasi I asked some of your classmates. Makinig kayo, guys. Ito pa, may paulit na naman. Ayan. Ano tayo? Unlimited. Ayan. So, the question ko. Diba, we are using hollow blocks. Ano ba yung purpose ng hollow blocks? Are they load-bearing? Are they shear walls? Or what? Ngayon, kanina, yung mga kaklase mo, magkakaiba sila ng sagot. Sabi nila, meron load-bearing down, meron naman nagsabi na shear wall siya. Ikaw naman, what's your point? Or what's your answer?
Sir, load bearing ko ata.
Why? Why is it load-bearing?
Sir, nagbubuhat rin siya ng load, sir. Sa top of it.
Are you sure? Sige, sa'yo talaga ng pan natin dito. Okay. Kalika.
Sir, shear wall po.
Shear wall?
Yes,
Okay. Danaw. Ay, hindi pala. Kawilan Archie.
Building frame system, sir.
Building frame system. So, parang kakaiba yung kay Archie ha, from wall naging building frame system. Bakit siya building frame system?
Ay, sir, pagkakaintindi ko kasi, sir, para sa vertical loads din po kasi yung hollow block, sir.
Ang hollow blocks? Sige. How about the now, Ronald?
Sir, ang hollow block, sir, is just a dead load, sir, because from the word itself, hollow, wala siyang kayang buhatin, sir, saka mabilis siyang masira kapag wala siyang semento sa loob.
Are you sure?
Yun lang yung pagkakalam ko sa hollow block, sir, wala siyang nabubuhat. Consider as dead load lang siya, sir.
Okay. So, ito naman guys, ito general observation about hollow blocks is that may point naman kasi si Danao, it's actually sabi niya hollow. Okay, so you cannot really guarantee the structural integrity of a hollow block. So, in general guys, to answer that, okay, hollow blocks are just actually cover of your houses or your partitions. Okay, in in actual practice, we do not consider hollow blocks as load bearing or shear na wall. Okay, because they do not have the capacity to do that. Okay, especially they are hollow, and then you have to fill them up with ang tawag dito, the cement piece, right? And then yun nga, though meron siyang reinforcement sa loob, Okay, why do we put reinforcement sa loob? Ngayon, this will actually be a question, or this will question the answer that I said earlier na hindi siya load bearing. So why is it then sure na meron siyang reinforcement sa loob? Like you put there are bakal sa loob and then you fill it with paste. Okay? So to answer that, because your wall is actually your hollow blocks are reinforced para hindi siya kasi diba they are just connected by cement paste. So if you will not be putting a stabilizer, kumbaga stabilizer yung nilalagay guys na reinforcement sa loob. Okay, yung bakal sa loob. Those are stabilizers para hindi bumagsak yung wall mo. Kasi if you just connect it with and compared to masonry bricks, okay, to bricks ganyan. Kasi yung bricks kasi hold siya and then you can just pagpapatungin mo na lang. Ang hollow blocks hindi. Okay, hindi mo siya kayang pagpapatupatungin at i-bind lang using the cement mortar. Okay? Kailangan mo siyang lagyan ng reinforcement. So, yun nga, in actual practice, hollow blocks are dead loads. Okay? Those are dead loads. Ngayon, makaka-encounter kayo ng studies na there are actually comparative studies on hollow blocks and bricks. Okay? So, may mga nag-study na ng potential ng hollow blocks as load-bearing walls. Okay? Pero in a more general sense, they are considered dead load. Okay? I hope we're clear with that. So, let's move on to the next slide. So, meron tayong steel-braced frames. Maybe we should call Domingo Apple Jean. Ayan. Would you mind reading the first paragraph?
Steel brace frames are often used in combination with concrete shear walls or masonry shear walls. Brace frames are essentially vertical, cantilevered trusses and may be either concentric or eccentric in configuration.
Okay. Sige. Figueroa.
Sir.
6 digits. Figueroa. Mataas ang net worth ni Figueroa Noel. Sige, pabasa ako ng second paragraph.
Concentric frames have diagonal braces located so that the lateral forces act along the direction of their longitudinal axis. Eccentric braces frames use both axial loadings of braces and bending of sections of horizontal beams to resist the forces. Figure 2 shows typical braces frame configurations.
Okay, so marami tayong types of bracing, no? We have concentric bracing, eccentric bracing configuration. These are actually just a configuration. So kung ano yung, kumbaga, under the bracing, these are general types. So we have as well steel bracing, okay, in combination with concrete shear walls. So this will be like a building frame system, okay. So this is not classified under moment resisting frame. So pakita ko sa inyo yung different types of building frames. Okay, so meron tayong X brace, chevron brace, K brace, and then eccentric braces. So these are the examples of the bracing. Okay, so take note of the figure. Now going back, tanungin natin, Frase, Reggie.
Sir?
Miss Frase, if I were to put ba a X brace on a building frame, magiging moment resisting na siya? Magta-transform ba siya into a moment resisting frame?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Guzman, Brian. Guzman, are you here? Guzman, are you here, Guzman? Okay, mukhang wala. Joseph. Mhm. Parang pumasok siya kanina. I think I saw him. Okay, anyway. Lapangan Vanessa. Lapangan Vanessa.
Sir?
Okay, going back to the question, let me repeat that. If I were to put, di ba, we have the building frame system. Now, if I were to put a bracing on a building frame system, magiging moment resisting frame na ba siya?
Yes, sir.
How about Luyun Dina?
Sir.
Is it a yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Magulod, Joanna Marie? Wala si Joanna. Malto Joshua.
Sir.
Is it a yes or a no?
Yes, sir.
Narag, Arnel. Narag. Waling. Pader, Jericho.
Sir.
Yes or no?
Yes po, sir.
Yes. Oh, Next, Padua. Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Palatao Neil. Palatao. Palatao. Wala si Palatao. Palogan, Karen.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Ayan. So, sino nagsabi ng yes? Sino nagsabi ng no? Sige. Ayan, guys. If I were to put a bracing on, balikan ko ha. If I were to put a bracing like that one in this particular figure, ito, lalagay ko siya dito sa figure A, ito. Ayan. So, lalagyan ko ng bracing, X bracing ito. Okay. Will it transform it into a moment-resisting frame? Okay. Will it technically change the type? Okay, that's the question. So, kung sinabi mong yes, guys, very good kayo doon. It's a yes. Okay, very good kayo. Yung nagsabi ng no, excellent yun. Okay, excellent sila. Okay. Guys, when you say yes, it's wrong. Okay, it's not a yes, it's a no. Kasi technically, you just put braces there because it's actually a building frame. Okay? Take note na ang definition natin ng moment resisting frame, the columns and the columns and the columns and the beams alone can already withstand lateral forces. Okay, you don't need to brace them. Ito siya. So yung skeleton pa lang ng moment resisting frame natin, that is already enough, okay, to withstand the lateral forces. Bakit ba tayo maglalagay ng braces? Okay? Kasi nga yung building frame system natin, hindi niya kayang i-withstand ang lateral force. Okay? That's why we put additional braces. Okay? So, kahit maglagay ka pa ng shear wall dyan or ng X-bracing, the building frame system will never be transformed or will never change into a moment-resisting frame. Okay? So, yun. Okay. May magkaiba talaga ang definition ng moment-resisting frame sa building framing. Okay? So, these are the framing kanina na nakita natin. We have eccentric braces, K-brace, chevron brace, and the X-bracing. Okay? So moment-resisting frames can be constructed of steel, concrete, or masonry. Okay? Pamitan.
Sir.
Pakibasa nga yung second and third paragraph.
Moment frames consist of beams and columns in which bending of these members provides the resistance to lateral forces. There are two primary types in memory frames, ordinary and special. Special moment resisting frames are detailed to ensure ductile behavior of the beam to column joints and are normally used in zones of higher seismicity.
Okay. So, yung mga moment resistive frames natin consist of beams and columns lang, okay, in which these are actually, sabi ko nga kanina, it can withstand already, it can withstand already the lateral loading and the gravity loads, okay? So, there's no need for you to use a shear wall or to brace them, okay? So, those are moment frames. So, meron tayong two primary types of moment frames. You have the ordinary and the special, okay? Sabi dito, special moment resisting frames are detailed to ensure ductile behavior of the beam to joint columns and are normally used in higher seismicity. Okay. Question. What do we mean when we say ductile element? What do we mean when we say ductile element? Pelagio Mary Jane. Kung hindi nyo alam, you can just say pass. Sir, I don't know. Hey, it's okay.
Nade-deform, sir.
Nade-deform.
Pero andun pa rin yung toughness niya.
Andun pa rin toughness. Do you agree, Pintukan?
Sir, ano po, ito yung mga substances na nado-drawn into wire, sir.
Nado-drawn into wire. Wow, you're talking about the characteristics of metals. Okay. Ductile behavior of metals that can be drawn into wire without breaking. Ganun ba? Okay. Sige. Kendangan Richard.
Sir, I think ductility is it has ability to carry load, sir, then without breaking po.
Without breaking? Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Asus Maria Josefa. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Kung na question mark. Okay. Kitang Aaron. Kuitang. Dito ba si Kuitang?
Sir, nade-deform without fracture.
Without fracture. Okay. Sige. Ayun. Meron nagsabi na may nag-define ng ductile properties of metals, ganyan. So, eto guys, yung ductile element na yan, of course, may point naman kayo, no? May point kayo. It is actually an element that is capable of sustaining large cyclic deformation, okay, without any significant loss in the strength. Okay? So, pwede mo siyang i-deform pero hindi mawawala yung kanyang strength. Okay? The structural integrity is still there. Okay? So, yung mga elements na to can deform and still maintain the structural strength. Okay? So, yun yung ating ductile element. How about non-ductile element naman? Reyes. My favorite student, Reyes. Yun na yun. Kabaliktaran ng una. Okay. So kapag non-ductile element naman guys, these are actually elements in which the failure mode that results in like an abrupt loss of resistance. So if you try to deform something, bigla na lang at a certain degree of loading, magbe-break na siya. So those are non-ductile elements. Wherein yung ductile element, kahit gaano pa lakas yung loading na ilagay mo dyan, magde-deform, pero it will never break. Okay? So parang yung relasyon nyo lang. Ductile element ba yan or non-ductile? Okay. So, parang relasyon lang siya. Yung relasyon nyo kayang ma-deform yan. Pero if ductile siya, hindi kayo magbe-break. Ayan. Kung kaya nyo pagpaglaban, then go. Ganyan. So, parang ganun lang. Okay. Anyway, out of context. Okay, next we have Rivera.
Because of damage observed following the 1994 North Bridge earthquake, steel moment resisting frames have been under intensive study and testing. The goal is to determine the causes of the damage and to recommend changes in steel moment resisting frame design and construction to ensure ductile behavior of the joints.
Okay, so there was an instance before, way back 1994 in Northridge, wherein there is a steel moment resisting frame. So technically, the how do we connect ba steel members, steel column to a steel beam? How do we connect it? Salada. What's a typical connection for a steel column and to a steel beam?
Sir? Medyo garble, sir. Wait.
What's the typical connection between a steel column and a steel beam? What's the typical connection between a steel column and a steel beam? Salvador.
Sir, ano ulit yun, sir?
Diyos ko naman, ito na naman tayo, para unlimited. Okay. What's the typical connection between a steel column and a steel beam?
Sir, welded section, sir.
Welded. O, Salvador, ano pa?
Ano yung isa, sir? Steel?
Both are steel, pero column yung isa, beam yung isa.
Ay, wait lang, sir.
Sir,
Wait
sarado,
lang.
sir, welded section. Garbol kasi kanina, sir.
Ayan, welded section. Ano pa? O, Salvador, ano pa?
Wait lang, sir.
Ay, Diyos ko, maghintay tayo hanggang...
Yung similarities nila, sir?
Give up na ako. Pass. Pass na. Ayoko na. How do we connect? Okay, a steel beam to a steel column. Ayun, as simple as that, diba? We have welded and bolted.
Yes, sir.
Now, in a steel moment resisting frame, okay, steel moment resisting frame, what's the connection? Is it a bolted connection or a welded connection? Tabisaura.
Sir.
Ay, hindi ko pala siya. Okay.
Sir, sir, welded.
Are you sure?
Not so sure, sir. Pero welded ata, sir.
Welded daw. Okay, welded. Uy, Matthew.
Bolt or rivet?
Bolt or rivets for a steel moment resisting frame. Ano naman sagot nyo? Valenzuela.
Sir. Sir, welded po ata.
Welded po ata. Okay. Nakakita na ba kayo ng gano'n? Nakakita na ba kayo ng, tawag dito? Ng structural steel moment resisting frame. Meron ba tayong steel moment resisting frame in Tugigaraw? Do we have? Wala.
Meron ata, sir. Ay, pero may steel sa sir, harap ng St. Paul ata.
Harap ng St. Paul?
Yes, sir.
Have you been to ang tawag, Yellow Cab? Yellow Cab? Do you even eat in Yellow Cab? Do you eat in Yellow Cab salada?
No, sir.
No? How about you? Ito si Matthew, mukhang kumakain to. Matthew, do you eat in yellow cab? Or did you eat in yellow cab na in Tuligaraw?
Hindi pa po, sir.
Ay, naku, Diyos ko. Okay. How about Pamiktan? Kumain na ba kayo sa yellow cab? May tapat na Robinson. Figueroa.
No, sir.
No pa? Okay. Sige. Sino pa ba dito? Yung mukhang mga ganon. Nakakaangat sa buhay. Si Reyes. Reyes, have you eaten in yellow cab at Tugigaraw? The one in front of Robinson. What were your observations in terms of the structure? Is it steel or concrete? Ano ba yan? Walang thrill. Okay, walang thrill. Ayan. Mukhang mayaman talaga tong si Reyes, no? How about si Jarvie? Jarvie?
Sir,
Kumain ka na sa yellow cab?
hindi pa, sir.
Diyos ko. Isa lang talaga ang pandita. Si Benitez.
Hindi pa, sir.
My God. Hindi pa kayo kumakain doon. Pero have you ever tried yellow cab? Acido?
Hindi, sir.
Never in your life?
Yes, sir. Hindi pa.
Oh my goodness. Adun, isa-isahin natin. Adun.
Hindi pa, sir.
Almondia.
Hindi pa po, sir.
Diyos ko. Okay. Antolin.
Never po, sir.
Araw.
Sir, hindi po, sir.
Hala, oh my goodness. Okay, Bakkay.
Sir.
Kumain ka ng yellow cab? Na-try mo na? Yellow cab?
Yes, sir.
Ay, wow. Okay, we have 2 over 45. Yellow cab where?
Sa may Dasmariñas, sir.
Ang layo naman ng Dasma mo. Dasma. Di ba, do you know, di ba yung isang Lasal, De La Salle is like in Dasma? De La Salle, Dasma. Yung
Meron, sir.
Yung gano'n, yung health ata nila, De La Salle Health Institute. Di ba? Dasma yun.
Hindi ko lang po alam, sir, pero may De La Salle sa Dasma.
Ayun. Kasi mayayaman ng mga taga-Dasma, and if you're there, like, mayaman ka pala, Edward.
Yes, sir. Gavat.
Okay. Sige. Ano ba yan? Guys, you should try yellow cab even once. Okay. Pero if you're into like Italian pasta, mga ganun, Italian pasta, go kayo there. Pero if you're into sweet na spaghetti, mga ganyan, wag kayo doon. Wag kayo doon, okay? Pero their pizza, a very good yung pizza nila. Masarap yung pizza nila. Now, if you're going there, check nyo yung place, guys. I think it's made up of steel frames. Okay. So, yung kanilang, to answer if steel moment resisting frame is made up of bolts or rivets or kung ano man yan, okay? So a steel moment resisting frame is technically composed of it could be bolt, it could be welded, or it could be rivet connection. Okay, so yung steel moment resisting frame is not only applicable to welded connection. Okay, so pwede siyang maging bolted and pwede siyang maging rivet connection. Okay? As long as there is a somewhat addition to the connection. Okay? Parang naglalagay kasi sila doon na parang support, guys, for for bending moment and torsion. Okay? So papakita ko yun sa inyo mamaya. Pero I won't be showing you a steel structure, pero pakita ko sa inyo yung kumbaga diagram ng tawag dito, ng steel moment or resisting frame. Okay? So yun. So the selection of the type of lateral force resisting elements to use in a building is often based on economics. Okay, syempre, in the school, I think in school we have a dual system, the end building. I think that's dual system, but I'm not really sure if it's a dual system. Kasi yung end building noon, mag-isa lang niya yan. Okay, nung college ako, mag-isang building lang yung end building. Ngayon kasi nadugtungan na siya. Ngayon, kung may pera ka, you can definitely opt for any type of a building or a lateral force resisting element. Okay, it depends on your budget. Okay, pero if you were to ask me, okay, always opt for a moment resisting frame. Okay, always opt for a moment resisting frame. Okay. So, marami kasing advantages ang moment resisting frame compared to a building frame and a shear wall. Okay, mas madami. So, a single type of resisting element is commonly used in most building types, such as in houses where wood frame shear walls are used, or in concrete built-up buildings where concrete shear walls are used. However, other types of building may need to use combinations of more than one type of a seismic element. Okay? So dito tayo papasok. Dito na papasok yung dual systems na mga ganyan. Okay? So the building code allows combinations to be used, but they are also subject to very specific structural design rules. Okay? Very strict tayo guys when it comes to combination of two or more seismic elements. Why? Kasi in the code itself, okay, in the UBC and in ASCE, ang mga binibigay lang dun na codes are actually for a special type lang ng framing system. For the combination, medyo magiging complicated na siya kasi you have to combine several sections of the code, okay, in order to make this combi or this dual system functional. Okay? So medyo mahirap yun. Ngayon, if I were you, if you were to design, just focus on one type of a lateral resisting element. Okay? Kasi mahirap guys kung combinations na, mas maraming involved na sections sa code natin. Mas mahirap siyang kumbaga mas mahirap siyang i-apply and mas mahirap siyang ipatayo kung combi. Okay? Kung kaya naman ng moment resisting frame na lang, well, why would you opt to construct a dual system kung kaya naman niya, di ba? Okay. So, yun lang yun. Yun sa mga disadvantages. And medyo matagal yung time and yung tawag dito, pag-procure ng material. Okay? Kapag isang type lang ng system, well, isang material lang yung kailangan mo. Ganun yun. Okay? So, for example, if concrete shear walls that are also bearing walls are combined with braced frame elements along one axis and ordinary moment resisting frames are used along the other axis, the braced frame elements need to be designed using slightly larger forces than if they were the only type of resisting element used along that axis. So ito, meron na nga tayong bearing wall, nilagyan pa siya ng braced frame, and then, nilagyan mo pa siya ng moment resistant. So, mamaya i-draw ko yan. Okay, i-draw ko siya. Meron kasi guys, yung mga brace frame na nga siya. Tapos, meron pa siyang shear wall. Tapos, yung shear wall na yun, it's also a load-bearing wall. Okay? Or gravity load-bearing wall. Okay? So, dun pa lang, sobra tiba-tiba na yung design mo. So, marami kang masyadong i-consider na factors, okay? Especially in doing or in following the building code or the structural code. Now, take note that the code does not exempt you from any charges, okay? Similar to your assessment 1 way back in prelim, the building code does not exempt you from any legal charges that may arise from the failure of the building, okay? Kasi nga, even though you follow the code, okay, nasa discretion mo pa rin yan. Okay? Kung puro minimum naman yung ginamit mo, of course, hindi mo in-anticipate na magkakaroon tayo ng dynamic loading or there are changes in the characteristics or the occupancy of that building, well, magpa-fail at magpa-fail yun. If it did not meet the certain standard, okay, for this particular type of occupancy, mga ganyan, for the seismic load conditions, maximum seismic load conditions, mga ganyan. Okay? Then on the other hand naman, on the other axis, the moment frame elements also need to be designed for force larger than if they were the only type of resisting element in the building. These adjustments in design forces are required to account for the differences in strength, stiffness, and ductility among the three types of resisting elements. Siyempre, the bearing wall, it's actually a wall. Now, yung frame, structural frame natin is, kung building frame lang siya, it does not carry kumbaga guys, kapag nag-structural analysis kayo, di ba? For example, theory of structures. Okay? Di ba if you have di ba you have two types of structure, determinate and non-determinate. Ganyan. Tapos rigid and non-rigid. Okay. So yung indeterminate structures na yan, okay, masyadong mahaba yung calculation. Okay, masyadong mahaba yung calculation. Nagpa-finite element tayo. Do you have finite element na subject? Finite element? Do you have finite element na subject in civil? Your new curriculum? Meron ba wala?
Wala naman po, sir.
Wala, sir.
How about matrix analysis of structures? Hala, ang dami naman natanggal. Oh my God. Okay, ang dami natanggal pala, no? So, ayan. So, wala din kayong Geotech 2, ganyan. Okay, so way back, when I was in college, we have a finite element. Okay, yung finite element namin, commonly known as matrix analysis of structures, wherein yung mga indeterminate na examples niyo sa theory of structures. Kasi di ba may mga indeterminate tayo, tapos we have like different methods on how to do that. Etong matrix analysis of structures nito, we are actually using matrix algebra, mga ganyan. Tapos we have vectors, mga ganyan. Vector calculation, vector algebra, mga ganyan, to calculate the forces on each member, especially kapag indeterminate siya. Well, when we say indeterminate, diba, the number of reaction is less than the number of the members. Okay, so hindi kaya ng summation of forces ng equilibrium conditions mo, hindi kaya ng equilibrium conditions mo na isolve yung forces on each of the members. Okay? So, hindi sapat yung summation of forces horizontal and vertical equals 0, and then summation of moment equals 0. Have you encountered this type of problem in your theory of structures, mga ganyan, RC under surface? Did you encounter yan, yung mga indeterminate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Di ba medyo mahaba-haba yung calculation nun? We have three moment equation, mga ganun. Consistent deformation method, mga ganyan. Ang dami nun. So under theory 2 ata, hindi ko lang sure. Pero yun. Pero in your review naman, hindi naman ganun ibibigay nila. Hindi naman ganun ibibigay. Okay? So magkakaroon tayo ng maraming adjustments. Okay, so that's like the last part of the lecture. So that ends the lecture for the system. Now I will be showing you some diagrams. Okay, diagrams para mas maintindihan ninyo kung ano ba yung mga bearing wall, mga ganun. Okay? So, punta tayo sa seismic analysis na kasi yun eh. Mag-leave muna ako sa bridge. Ayan. So going back, guys, these are the figures of the systems. Okay, let's start with this one. What do you think is this system? So we only have column, okay, on the edges, and then beam sa taas, and then the shaded portion is your wall. Oh, what type of system is this one? Hello? Hello? Wala ba? Narinig ba ako?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Very well.
Hello? Hello, hello, hello. Hello from the other side. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you guys hear me or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Hello? Wala. Wala
Hello,
ba
sir.
sila?
Sir, naririnig ka namin.
Wait lang.
Sir.
Kan? Narinig niyo ba ako?
Yes,
Hindi ko
sir.
narinig.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kanina pa
Yes,
ba kayo?
sir.
Kanina pa ba kayo nagsasagot? Nakamute pala ata. Okay, going back na lang. Sige, let's go back. Okay, we have here 2 columns, okay, at the edges of the building, and then we have a beam dun sa taas, and then we have the shaded portion is the wall. What type of system is this? What type of system is this?
Bearing wall, sir.
Are you sure? Sure ka? Sure na you? Sino yung sumagot kanina? Who was that? Who answered kanina? Kalika? Is that you?
Hindi po, sir.
Sino yun, Gaffen? Uy, sino yun? Sumagot na. Aaron? Ikaw ba yun? O, sino Gaffen yun, Aaron? Sino yung sumagot kanina? Yun lang naman tinatanong ko. Ano ba yan? Hirap naman kausap ng mga to.
Si Apostol po ata, sir.
Apostol, ikaw ba yun? Who
Yes, sir.
answered earlier? Kailangan ba mag-English? Sini inanabak gamuze. Sini kadit. Ano ba? Ano ba ang Ilocano? Diyos ko, baka hindi kayo maintindihan. Ayan. So, sabi mo kanina, this is a bearing wall system. Let's check if it is a bearing wall system. Why would you say it's a bearing wall system when it has a beam on top? Apostol MJ.
Yan yung na-search ko, sir.
Ay, wow, na-search. How did you search that? How did you even search for that? This figure? Tama ba?
Yes, sir. Nag-search ako ng building frame systems, tas yun yung ano.
Okay. Well, ayun, very good, Apostol. This is actually a bearing wall system. Okay. So, di ba bearing wall system? Okay, hindi ko naman sinabi na, di ba? Hindi ko naman sinabi na walang column and beam ang bearing wall system. The bearing wall system has have both columns and beams. Only that, okay? If it is a 3-level or like 3 levels, 3-story in a building, you wouldn't see beams in between or in between stories, just like this one. Okay? So, meron pa rin siyang beams and columns, only that yung column niya is located on spans, and then yung beam niya is located at the topmost, okay, supporting the roof deck. Okay? And then the wall will be supporting all the floors. So wala siyang beams in between stories. Okay, so that is your building wall system. How about this one? How about this?
Dual system.
Dual system, are you sure this is a dual system?
Yes, sir. Dual.
Dual. Okay, how about this one?
Moment resisting.
Okay. What do we mean when we say dual system ba? What do we mean when we say dual system? Oh, sige, this is dual system, this is moment. How about this? What is
Building
this?
frame.
Building frame. O, eto naman. Okay, sige, balikan natin. Ito, balikan natin to. Okay. So, let's show kung ano ba yung mga tiles nila. Ayan. So, first one is your bearing wall. So, wala tayong problema dyan. This is actually a building frame system. Okay, that is a building frame system. Okay, so in here, dun pa lang sa second na figure nito, we actually have a braced frame. Okay, di ba? This is this. What type of framing is this? Or what type of bracing is this? What type of framing is this? Ano?
Chevron, sir.
Chevron. Okay. Sabi ni Pader, chevron. Are you sure this is chevron? Okay. So this is actually a chevron bracing, guys. Okay. So when you have a particular structure, okay, that is braced, that is already part of the building frame system. Okay. Take note na ang building frame system natin is partly meron siyang shear wall and meron din siyang tawag dito, meron siyang shear wall and then meron siyang frame. Okay, meron siyang frame. Okay. So, this one is your moment resisting. Okay? So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, guys. In a moment resisting frame, hindi kailangan, especially in a steel moment resisting frame, hindi kailangan na welded connection. Okay? Pwede din siyang maging bolted and riveted connection as long as meron tayong somewhat support on the nodes of the frame itself. Okay? This support will actually counteract the effect of the moment. Okay? The overturning moment, mga ganyan, and as well as the torsion. Okay? So, yan yung building frame or your moment resisting frame. Now, ano ito din? This is what we now call a dual system. Okay? Dual system. Okay. So this is your dual system. Ayan o. Dual systems with special moment frames and dual systems with intermediate moment frames. Okay. So what if so the difference between a building frame system is that your building frame system, the walls there are shear walls. Okay, you are incorporating shear wall. Okay, on the frame. Now in here naman, the shear wall is also a load bearing wall. Okay, it is also a load bearing. So the wall in here is able to resist the gravity loads and the shear or the lateral loads. Okay, so that is your dual system. Well, ito naman sa last, part is the inverted pendulum system. Okay, they just call it inverted pendulum system, but it's actually a dual system. Okay, it's still a dual system. Okay, but we barely use pendulum system kasi who would want naman na uh, the support of the second floor is actually a masonry or a shear wall, no? So yeah. So these are the classifications of your seismic force resisting system. Okay, and this is under the seismic loading, which will be discussed na lang sa finals. Ilalast natin siya kasi medyo complicated yun. Okay, detailing of reinforcement and yung ating earthquake loading will be discussed na lang on the last part of our semester. Okay, and then I also have here, asan na yun? Ito. Ayan. So we have braced framing. Ayan. So wala tayong problema sa braced framing. The first figure in here on the left is the braced framing. So wala tayong moment. Okay? Wala tayong moment. Okay? So yung next naman dito, this is actually your moment frame. Okay? So ayan. So on the joints or on the nods, meron tayong support for bending or your flexure. Okay? Now, balik tayo sa shear wall and wall bearing. Okay? Wall is or load bearing. Shear wall natin, it just withstands the effect of the horizontal forces that are the forces that actually causes tear. Okay? Tear on the structure. While yung load bearing natin, gravity loads lang siya. Okay? The load is just acted on the one side of the wall itself. Okay, and it is transferred into the column and the beam itself. Okay, so take note of that. Malay nyo lumabas to sa exam nila. Okay, yung mga ganyan na figure. Alright? So, ayan, meron tayo. This is actually a good book. Okay, pero this is like a simplification kasi of the ASCE. Binibigyan ka lang yan ng idea or figure. Okay. So, ayan. So we also have the wind loads in here. So this is how the wind loads are acted. Okay, horizontal. Ganyan. Okay. So yun lang naman guys. So pinakita ko lang kung ano yung types ng mga systems natin as an introduction to your earthquake loading later on. Have you calculated earthquake loadings already? Nag-calculate na ba kayo ng earthquake loadings? Di ba you have earthquake engineering? Oh, did you calculate already? Did you try to calculate earthquake loading already? Yes or no? Yes. Madali lang ba yung calculation ng earthquake loading ninyo? Do you think it's mahirap? Mahirap siya. So again, how we will be following, hindi ko lang sure kung ano i-follow nating provisions sa earthquake loading, kung ASCE ba or NSCP. Anyway, halos magkapareho lang naman yun. Ang naiba lang naman is yung geographic location. Okay? So that is our lecture for today. We still have like almost an hour and a half.